I'm excited to talk to you, and I want to say why. You're a different person than who you were when I met all those years ago. And I don't want you to take offense at this, because people have told me I used to be angry. I used to feel this anger coming from you. And people say that to me too.
Yeah.
And I used to feel, and it wasn't like, I knew it wasn't about me, but I knew that there was something bubbling underneath that, and I couldn't articulate it, and I didn't know you well enough, like we talked, but to say, you know, what the hell, you know, like, and it's a big thing to ask somebody, but I suspect because you're a different person now, it's all the work you've put on yourself. Like, you've been working relentlessly behind the scenes of development. Is that correct?
Yeah. And, you know, with my body, that actually kind of forced me into that, right? Because I was having so many health challenges and I was looking externally for all of the answers. I was looking for like the magic pill. I was looking for, you know, a quick food. Like, I was constantly looking for things just to take away that physical pain that I was in. And then, so I didn't even recognize, I had no awareness and no understanding that I was such an angry person. Like, I was completely oblivious to it. And I was completely oblivious to how my emotions were actually affecting my physical health. And so, yeah, I was constantly looking for everything else to fix me, really. And I was constantly blaming other people. And I didn't even recognize to the extent that I was actually doing it. You know, if something happened, it was all about what the other person did to me. It was all about what they said or what they did. And I was totally oblivious to, well, I was actually present and I was actually in that space at exactly the same time. And somewhere, somehow, I've contributed to that, either something I've said or something I've done. So, yeah, it was, my body forced me into looking deep within, because when I wasn't getting the results externally, when I wasn't getting what I wanted just through nutrition or just through taking a pill or whatever it may actually be, I was like, okay, I have to go deeper. There's actually something else. And the more I started to ask myself the questions like, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? What's the purpose of this? What am I here to learn? What is my body teaching me? Like, I would just get silent and I would just lie down. I'd sit there and I'd put my hands on my body and I'd be like, what are you here to teach me? What do you want me to know? What am I missing? And those answers didn't come straight away. Like, it wasn't like an instant download. Sometimes they just filtered through. Sometimes they were days later. Sometimes they were weeks later. But the more I asked myself those questions, the easier they actually filtered through. And sometimes I'd just be in the kitchen and then they'd actually come through and it would be like, oh, okay, like, that relates back to something that happened 20 years ago or whatever it may be, you know. So, yeah, and then that put me down the path of personal development. And when I wasn't getting the results in my physical health and in the areas that I wanted, I started to see, okay, well, the emotional component is massive as well. And maybe emotions are a bigger factor than you know, like just exercise and nutrition. Like, they're important, don't get me wrong, but you know, if you're only focusing on that, you're only going to get so far. And so you have to look at the emotional side as well.
Tell everybody that's watching what your role is. I'd love for everyone to know, like, what you do, what you are, and how they can contact you too before we launch into everything else.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I've kind of asked myself that question for so many times, and it's kind of been like a bowl of spaghetti trying to get to like, what is it that I actually do? And it actually, the other day I was just sitting, I was having some challenges in my own health, in my own life, and it really came to me. It kind of just filtered through, and it was like, I'm really here to free people from their physical and emotional pain so they can actually thrive. And the reason that's so important is because when you have physical pain, like you don't really want to do anything. Like there's different levels of it, right? But when you have emotional pain, it's like you just want to withdraw. You don't want to speak to the world. You don't want to actually go out and engage with people. So freeing people from that so they can actually thrive is something that's really, really close to my heart. So I do that through one-on-one coaching and healing through traditional methods, but also some really, really non-traditional methods. So people can contact me through Facebook or Instagram. They're the two social media platforms that I'm really on. So I have a personal page and a business page. So you can just send me a PM there, or you can email me at hello@jazminelaw.com.au, Jazmine with a Z.
Doing that, going into that, but I want to go back to where you were before. You were talking about, I know Candace Pert's work is about, she discovered that, your emotions are actually chemicals in your body, and that we actually are addicted to those chemicals. So even though we don't want to discuss it, we're addicted to anger, we're addicted to resentment. I constantly, with my son, I keep finding myself getting angry, and I'm like, but how do I stop this? How do I stop this chain of events? And I'm not even angry at him. He could do something so little and he doesn't even
Yeah.
intend to do it. But I find myself in that body response, like being angry and wanting to keep getting angry and angry about silly things.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it's also people are addicted to drama. And one of the most amazing things was I learned was that at all times, like our needs are always getting met, and positively and negatively. And we tend to label these things of like anger is bad and sadness is bad and rage and all this stuff. And so when we feel that, it's like, oh, we should be feeling that. Like, no, 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 no. Like, I got to be the good girl, right? And people are addicted to this good girl, good boy kind of mentality in a way, because and it really everything goes back to childhood and everything goes back to vulnerability, right? Because like we as a child, like if you're feeling angry or you're sad and you don't know how to communicate your needs, you're going to express yourself through emotions. And if that triggers the adult or the guardian, the person in the room, they like, no, you shouldn't be feeling like that's naughty. And then that goes back to what we call a shadow value. And a shadow value is something that we're unconsciously trying to get that need met. And then we may do it in rebellious ways. Like we may do it in um, unconsciously just creating drama, even when we don't like want to, right? Or where unconsciously, maybe it's let's say cigarettes, for example. But like, so we're always, so that addiction to creating drama is massive. And underlying that, it's usually because people want attention, and it's because somewhere along their lines their need of attention hasn't actually been met.
Because I know, and is it a generational thing? Because I know my mum loves drama. So
Yeah.
I think that's a form, like they talk about communication, like love, like the language of love. Maybe I learned that from my mum, that the way that I communicate to her is through drama. Because she rang me yesterday, still dramatizing things from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And like I'm having epiphanies because I'm realizing, well, that's my response. It comes down to how I'm taught it. Is that as well you're saying?
Yeah, totally. And what we model, like I was having a conversation with my mum the other day, and it was like, because I was finding myself that I was actually responding from fear a lot and living in this fear. And I'm like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And then when I thought about my mum, I'm like, everything. She just responds in fear. And that's what she was like when we were growing up in children. So not only did I learn to embody that fear, I learned to respond from that place. But then she's learned that from, her conditioning. And it keeps going back generational stuff. And I really believe that, like, sometimes when I look at my life and I think, why have I been given this? Like, why am I going through this? And it's really, really easy to go down the spiral and get really negative and stuff like that. But really, I really believe that and people that, you know, we're healers and we're coaches and we want to inspire people, empower people, but we're really here to like break that chain, that generational stuff. And because I really believe there is a consciousness and an awakening around the planet, and a lot of all this old heavy stuff is really coming to the surface, and sometimes it's really, really uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels like we're being like suffocated in it. But if we can really just sit that, and I think that's the power in actually just sitting in your emotions and sitting in that feeling. And sometimes we're not able to do that because maybe we're driving, or maybe we're, you know, picking up our children from childcare, or whatever it may be. But that's why, you know, get a pen and just write that down, and then allow yourself to go back to that later, and then sitting in that, and then allowing that to actually flow through you and then out of you. Because when we like dismiss it, it then remains stuck in our body, and that's when it can create a whole lot of other problems.
I love yoga, absolutely love yoga. And I'll be crying like in certain poses about things that have happened 5, 10, 50, or things I'd even forgotten. And it blows my mind away because your body stores those emotions. Like it stores
Yeah.
it. And if, like you're saying right now, if you don't process it, it stays there waiting. Is that right? Until you're ready to process it.
Yeah,
Or
totally. And like emotions are energy, and I think more people are coming to that awareness. I definitely wasn't aware of that. I definitely saw emotions like totally different. I really saw emotions as they was inconvenient. Like I wanted to live a bliss life, and just everything was good and everything was nice, and like everything just run smoothly, and everybody should like me and everybody should love me. Like, so when I wasn't living in that state, like I just didn't cope. I just had no way of coping because I was really attached to this state that I had to live in. Because emotions were inconvenient. So when I started to learn that emotions are messages from your soul, like they're messages from your body, they are gateways for us to go within and actually heal, so we can elevate and we can rise. And when you see emotions from that place, they are just like a best friend, you know, like a best friend relationship is not going to be bliss all the time. You're going to have, you know, like, again, that was something that I was like, friendship, like that should be bliss all the time. But like, no, it's not. So yeah, and if there's probably one thing that I could get people to take away, it's like emotions are our best friend. Like they are really there to help us. They are not inconvenient at all, at all. And you know, when we feel that anger, sometimes it's really uncomfortable. Like I'm not going to deny that, and sometimes you just want to run away from it, and that's totally okay. But the more we can just sit in that, and even that simple acknowledge it of like, okay, I have feelings of anger right now, and I'm feeling it in my tummy, or I'm feeling it in my neck, and just, you know, asking the emotion like you would speak to your best friend. So that's really important.
myself, someone said to me one day, which way that I internally spoke to myself and my emotions, like it's about self-regulation, and learning that with my son, is that I'm kinder to my son than I am to myself. And if I can transfer
Yeah.
that love, like you're saying right now, if I transfer that to me and not have that judgment and I've started to do that. And when I sit in that place of non-judgment, the emotion actually shifts through me, and I can't believe it. I'm not thinking about it 24 hours later. It's not
Yeah.
in this cycle of a loop. And it's like you said, it's about having it as a best friend, like the emotion being a friend rather than your foe. But there's people that run away from joy. I didn't even realize I don't celebrate joy. I need to celebrate joy so my son understands how to celebrate joy. But people run from different emotions because they just don't know how to sit with them.
Yeah, totally, totally. And you know, I wrote a post yesterday, so for people watching the replay, like go check out my post that I wrote yesterday, and it was literally about well, there's a couple of things, but one of the things was that if you're having these negative emotions like anger or resentment, or say if you've had something really traumatic, and a trauma doesn't have to be like something massive. Like a trauma to a child can literally feel like I'm crying and my mum was still in the kitchen because she was trying to get dinner ready, and I perceived that as she's abandoned me, right? So there's lots that trauma is on various different scales, right? So I just want to remind people that, you know, people say I didn't have trauma as a child. It doesn't mean that you were like I don't know, let's just say you were sexually abused, because there are people that have had that. So it doesn't have to be to that extent. But if we continually like suppress that and we ignore that, then we by default are going to ignore our positive emotions as well. Because you can't feel only positive and not negative, and you can't feel only negative and not positive. You're either feeling both or you're suppressing both. And I've done that because I would like feel anger and I would suppress it with food or television or sleep. I got really, people would joke that you could sleep anywhere. And I think I got really good at sleeping because I would just suppress my life and suppress my emotions. And I did that through sleep. So when you actually suppress that, you're not going to be able to feel joy. You're not going to be able to feel excitement. You're just going to feel like your life is just numb and totally indifferent, and things that should excite you don't. And things that should make you feel a bit frustrated don't. And you just go through life feeling really, really indifferent.
Post that you said about journaling, and was there some other things that you said that we could do to process our emotions? So I know journaling is a really good one that you can write about it. Is there any other suggestions you can give to people to process?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, but ultimately you've got to find what works for you, because what works for me will not work for you, and vice versa, right? So it's not about saying that journaling is the only way. It's journaling is a way. And one thing that I have learned, and this was like a game changer for me, and that was that our emotions, they store in our physical body and they're in our energetic body, right? Because emotions are energy. And so many people, they will just like go and they'll just write and then they're done. But they still haven't actually released it from their body. And so they're feeling frustrated because they're like, I've released this, I've worked on this for 5 years, but why is this not releasing? And it's because you need to release it from the body as well. So one of the exercises that I love so much is journaling and burning. So one of them, and it's so easy to do. You don't need anybody else to do this, right? You don't need a coach. You can do it by yourself. So you get a piece of paper or a computer and you just purge from the mind. It can be as angry and as resentful or as like it doesn't matter. Just go all out. And then I like to set a timer for 20 minutes. Now that's normally for deep stuff, but if it's just like maybe superficial stuff or something you just feel like you need to shift, you can just write and then get it and then burn it in a fire, or even like you can just put it in a bin if you don't have somewhere you can fire. But then as you're doing that, actually do breath work. So breathe it in and then release, but we're released with sound. It could be like a deep inhale. And just do that like 3 or 4 times. And then afterwards, like just move your body and allow that to move through you, because you've got to release it energetically and you've got to release it physically as well. And that is one of the major components that I see with people, that they're like, I'm doing the work, but it's not shifting. And it's because they're shifting it energetically, but they're not shifting it physically. Yeah.
Someone taught me about masculine and feminine energy yesterday, and I feel like what you're saying is when you're writing it, that's the masculine side, but the feminine is like the burning and the moving and the breath. It brings it in, so you sort of get that yin and a yang, which brings that balance. Like I feel, I can feel it energetically from you. Like, and I remember somebody taught me that, a nun taught me that when I was in high school. She told me to burn it, and I used to, but I stopped. So thank you for reminding me of that. Like, and it was liberating. I remember because I had so much anger towards my mum and her partner and the situation. Write it down, and it felt good to burn it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't even know. Like I remember that I was down on the Mornington Peninsula one day, and I like stuff just wasn't shifting for me. And when I thought about my mum, like I'm like, yeah, my mom, like she's beautiful, and it was all kind of lovey-dovey. But when I really tapped deeper into that, like anger and intolerance and stuff started to write. So I just started writing. I'm like, dear mum, I didn't have anything to write about, but I just set the timer and I just started writing, and I did not lift my pen off the paper. So even if it was like dear, I don't even know what to write, but I'm just going to keep writing because I feel like something has to come out of me, and there's still nothing coming up. And so you just write, and then eventually stuff will come up, and it will come up, and it will come up, and you just keep writing. But back to your question, like, journaling is amazing. It could be as simple as breath work. I always find that a specific song, if there's a song I really relate to, sit in that, move your body to that, and then actually sing the words and allow your body to feel the words. I find that a really powerful embodiment work. Um, yeah, and sometimes it's simple as just reminding still and having a conversation with yourself. Okay, well, what are you here to teach me? What am I not learning? What are you wanting to tell me? Like, and just visualize is amazing, but not everyone is a visualization person. So it literally could be feeling. You may feel what's actually your body wants to tell you. You may actually write it down. So yeah, you may actually want to actually get maybe something, maybe there's a tool or a specific toy. Like, there really is no boundaries to this. It's literally what feels right. And sometimes it can literally take a few goes of trialing different things before you actually find it. It might even be a blend of things. So for me personally, it's journaling. I find journaling the easiest way to purge from my mind on paper. And then I can actually go in and ask my body and ask my soul, like, hey, what do you want to do today? What is it that you're actually feeling? So that is what worked for me. And I find that really powerful for other people because it's really simple to understand.
Like, if us not processing emotions too, because we're talking about it, and I know it's something you wanted to share. It's about the disease, like dis-ease it causes in your body. And recently, my mother-in-law passed away from pancreatic cancer, and my husband and I have conversations about it all the time. And we think it's two factors. One, she was on a medication for 20 years almost that wasn't good, but two, she stored everything in her body. So whenever she got angry or frustrated with the situation, she didn't express it. She never told anyone. She basically locked herself into the room and locked it inside her, and so never expressed these emotions. And I have like numerous of my couple of friends that I love and adore that have been diagnosed with cancer in the last 2 weeks. And it's because they're working so hard, like they're working jobs that require so much of them. They're not speaking up to their
Yeah.
employers, saying this isn't right. And then I think, this is my personal opinion, I don't have the facts in it, but I think these diseases like cancer and so forth are prevalent in society because we're not vocalizing these emotions, this
Yeah.
dissatisfaction with a situation.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I just want to remind people that, like, I'm not a doctor. I haven't been, done to 5 years of med school or anything like that. So this is through my own research and my own personal experience with my own health stuff. And relating to cancer, my grandma had breast cancer, and we didn't know it until I didn't find out until she'd actually passed away. And she had a double mastectomy, and she didn't went into the hospital and didn't even tell her children that she was doing that. And she was such an angry and a resentful person. Like, everything had to be her own way. And cancer, anger and resentment are one of the two biggest emotional causes of cancer, because you're angry and you're resentful and you're holding that into your body. Like, it's going to manifest. And um, I I can appreciate that some people may feel triggered by that, but I just say that in the most heartfelt, loving way, that if someone has been diagnosed with that, really look at, anger and resentment, because, and also nurturing, like breast cancer, breasts are a place of nurture, we feed our children there. And that was what happened with my grandma. She had breast cancer, and she was just nurturing so much anger and so much resentment and so much hate towards people, and it manifested as cancer in her breast. So um, yeah, I think we still really underestimate how much our emotions really contribute to our physical disease. Like, for me personally, and anger as well, it can show up in digestive, because so many people hold emotions in our digestive system, and especially the organs of our liver. Like in Chinese medicine, liver, the organ of liver, hold things like anger, rage, fury, frustration. Our large intestine, I know bowel cancer is massively on the rise. That is where a lot of shame and guilt and self-criticism and self-judgment actually gets held. and that is an energetic block. And then obviously it may manifest of like constipation or irritable bowel, or other different diseases in that. So yeah, it's really massive. And I know this is something personal for me, like ovarian cyst. That's a massive, massive thing in female health. And ovarian cysts, like if you really dig deep on that, that usually goes back to deep-rooted hurt from the male or the father. Sorry, the male or the father, the father or the mother. And it could be neglect from the mother, or deep-rooted hurt from a male figure. So like, for example, if someone's been sexually abused and they haven't worked through that, that's typically going to manifest in the female organs. If there's like a lot of father stuff, that's also going to manifest as the feminine. Because what typically happens is the feminine is where we're soft and gentle and we're nurturing, right? And so if we've been hurt by that, like unconsciously we would go, okay, well, it's not safe to be a woman. All right, I'm going to shut off that feminine side and I'm going to go more into my masculine, where I'm strong and I'm like, I've got it all together and I can do it. So yeah, and then your body will actually manifest physical stuff. It could be ovarian cyst to actually block that feminine energy, because at some point in our life we've learned that it's not safe to be a woman. That's just one example. So I see that a lot.
I do not, when I brought that up to you, it's not offense to anybody that I know. I'm glad you said that. I'm not a professional, but I just feel like from my experience, I've seen many of these people, women, and because I'm a woman and I have friends with women, I can draw this experience, is that I was talking about this to another person today, that we reflect in our lives, but we always do it in judgment. We don't do it in praise. And yeah. And I see that even the judgment of themselves, and that they think that they can't have a voice, like they can't have a voice in the situation. And I feel that that's why people store so much in their body, because they don't think they have a right. And I find it really hard to witness those people that I know are powerful women not using their voices. And I suspect that you would say the same too, that you've witnessed many women that just judgment of themselves, and and not empowering who they are.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, look no further. I've totally been that person, right? Just blocked my voice. And sometimes it can happen when you've actually gone to be a voice and you've been shut down by it could be a parent, or it could be a school teacher, or someone else, and you've like, and that's caused you pain, or it's caused you hurt. And then, like, if that happens enough time, you make the decision, like, just not to say anything, because actually being confronted by that is too painful or too uncomfortable. Actually, one of the easiest ways, if people are like wanting to look at limiting beliefs or what's actually stopping them, is to them to actually close their eyes and go back to a time where you felt triggered, or you felt uncomfortable, or someone said something to you, and then it was like, okay, what was that instant thought that I had? So to give you an example, if I go back to like a conversation I had, and then I felt frustrated because somebody else wasn't actually listening to me or understanding, and in that moment it was like, okay, my opinion is unimportant, right? And that is a limiting belief, and therefore I won't actually speak my voice. So in any of the moments where you feel frustrated because someone's not understanding you, or someone's not hearing you, actually tuning in, it's like, okay, well, what do I actually believe about that? What decision did I believe about myself in that moment? You actually find there's a limiting belief in there that's actually stopping you or holding you back, for future.
You say that because I have come to realize, and that comes back to conscious parenting, I'm constantly being triggered by my son, like constantly, because I used to be a control freak. So I have to learn to let go, and that's what a 2-year-old does. But it's always comes down to me, a limiting belief. And then I look at it, it's back to something from my past. I really see it every time. It's like, oh, like, oh, that's because mum didn't see me there or there, or this happened between mum and dad, and then I thought it was this. You know,
Yeah.
it's really powerful. Like you're saying, like a parent could do that when they're even something's happening before they emotionally respond to their child. Because what I found, particularly when they're quite young, your children don't intend to do what they're doing. They're just learning about the world. But if you can take that breath, close your eyes, if it's possible, go back and see that limiting belief. It actually diffuses the whole situation, and you can come back to your child with love rather than a place of judgment, and something that could coincidentally keep, like you were talking about, that generational line, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really important for all of us to continue to understand that, like, it's not our fault. Like, we can be so hard on ourselves, like, when stuff happens and it's like, it's all about me and it's what I've done and because I'm in that situation and now I've hurt that person or whatever. And we can really get into this place of self-judgment and self-criticizing and make it all about us, but like it's not about us because I want to make 2 points on this, and the first one is that, like, as a child, and I see this with my dad especially, like what his childhood was like, and it was horrible. It was horrible. And he didn't go in and do the work in order for him to go back and heal that and release that and nurture those wounded parts of himself. And so then as an adult, he's parented from that place. He's parented from a wounded place, and it's not his fault and it's not my fault. So when we do something, he's like being triggered, but it's like that wounded child that, is being triggered, not him at the adult. And so I think it's really important for us to remind that everyone's doing the best they can, and that's the most important thing, really. And if some people are not even aware of what they're doing. They're not even aware that they're being triggered from something that happened 50 years ago. And then they go back into that place as is, because I think, the mind, and I may be mistaken in this statistic, but the mind thinks negatively like 90% of the time. And I may be really incorrect. You may know the exact figures on that, Amberlee, but we tend to really easily react from a place of judgment because we're feeling defenses or we're feeling vulnerable. And so we go on the defense in order to protect ourselves. And that's why self-awareness is so critical. It's so critical. So the sooner we can catch ourselves, the sooner we can actually move through this. And this is something that I really had to learn, because I said earlier that I would blame everybody else. And it was like, okay, so how have I contributed to that situation? Okay, I said that. Well, that was my truth, but could I have said it in a different tonality? Could I have said it in a like, look, I hear what you're saying, but I really think it's this way, or just that self-awareness to be able to see how you could have acted and responded from that place differently, and that will enable you to have more self-awareness, and then we can actually respond to future events from an empowered place rather than a really wounded place. So as parents, and like, I don't have a human child, right? But I am always mothering ourselves. Every person has an inner child, and that's why we always have to continue to mother ourselves, whether it be, speaking kindly to yourself, or whether it be taking yourself for a massage, like whatever it may be. Like, it's so important that we continue to mother ourselves. So that is something that I really had to learn through my own journey, and knowing that as parents and as adults, it's so important to do that self-awareness. It's so important to, okay, where is that coming from? That comes from something 20 years ago. Okay, so it's not about that child, or it's not about that person. It's something within me, and then I can go back at a later time. And maybe it's just having a conversation. Maybe it's giving yourself a hug and like just telling yourself thank you. Like, that is enough. That is enough.
I said the journey of self-awareness, I sat in such judgment because I was catching myself doing behaviors, but then I had to realize I've been doing them for like 30 or so years. Like, I'd been acting that same way.
Yeah.
I couldn't expect that I know overnight how to suddenly change.
Totally.
Like, and it's like I always think about the metaphor of where my son is at, and that's the best thing about having a child is you watch them, and he had to learn how to sit up first. We had to learn to lie on his belly, then sit up, then learn how to crawl, then how to walk. It's like this evolution of how to do things. But I was expecting myself, because I really wanted to change and have this stuff, to have it over day, done. And it's a process. Everything's a process. And it's like learning to walk, learning to ride a bike. It's just ongoing. You keep going. And like you said, it needs to be kind. Like, and I love that you talked about our own inner child, because energetically kids pick up on everyone, not just me. My son picks up on energy of anybody in the room,
yeah.
everybody, and he reads them, and he runs behind my legs behind certain people. And I wonder, and it's not because they're not nasty people, but I wonder what's going on inside of them. How are they talking to themselves, to the energy that they're feeding out? Because we've all got a little child, and when I'm kinder to my little child, my son feels safe and secure around me. But when I'm in judgment and criticizing that inner child, he knows. He absolutely energetically knows when it's not right with me or somebody else.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And yeah, it comes back to that as adults, and children are constantly mirroring our stuff. And, they are our teachers. They're there to mirror us and be like, okay, I need to go in and do a little bit of work on that, or I need to explore that and really understand that. And it's like, if we go and just dismiss that and then we make it about the child, then we are giving them our own inhibitions, and that's just not fair. I'm just going to say that is not fair. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who it is, to teach us. Like, they're here, they're perfect, they know what they want. They're actually here as our teachers. And that's not even just in, I could say that as a teacher. I used to get frustrated with kids. Why are they going my way? But the reality is, it doesn't matter if it's my kid or anybody else's kid. Or it's even when I bump into someone into the street and how they react or how they are. It's actually about me. Like, it's all about me and how I go into that situation and how I allow that to land on me. Yeah, like, it's all about, it always comes down to the fact of me. I'm the problem, not the other person.
Yeah, and I don't think it's about you being the problem, because then, like, that language in itself is like, oh, like, there's something wrong with me, and then people can spiral into that not enough stuff. So, and like, I'm just saying that because people can use that, and I've used that language. Or it's like, I'm the problem, and I've had my parents say that to me, like, you're the problem. And it's like, no, I'm not the problem, but I am just mirroring you. But I am, I am showing and showing up as a version that is not in the highest for myself or my child. So it's like, okay, I'm not the problem, but how can I actually evolve this situation, or whatever it may actually be. And but that is a really self-aware place. Like, that simple language is like, okay, like, no, you're not the problem, because we are whole and perfect, like, because we are the soul. Like, that is who we are. Every person, every living being on this planet has a soul, and that is who we are, whole and complete. But as we go through life, we've learned inhibitions, and we've learned stuff from our parents and our associates and our teachers, whoever it may be. So I think, again, that's why self-awareness is so important, because it's like, okay, this is not mine. This is actually the other person's. But right now it's showing up in my reality. It's showing up in my energetic field. It's showing up in my physical body. So what can I do to release that? And that's really, really important for people to understand, is that it may not be your stuff. It may not be your belief, or it may not be your fault, but it's actually showed up in your physical reality. So what is going on with me that's actually called that in, and how can I actually release that. And that's super important.
Because I used to wander life thinking, why is this happening to me? But didn't realize until I had that self-awareness, it was about my energetic level, like what I was putting out is, and it's a law of the universe. And I know people are skeptical about it, but I can live from my life experience is what I was putting out anger. So I got back anger and I didn't even know I was putting that out, but it was like, it was constantly this, how can I put it in the words? A fine balance of how to weave it, because it's okay to have anger and all these different emotions, but when I was projecting it to everybody else, I couldn't understand where it came back. But when I sit in the place of gratitude and love, and particularly like go back to the gratitude for grateful for where I am and the circumstances I've gone through throughout my life, it changed the energy that I was getting in return. Like what I was putting out was gratitude. I was just getting this beautiful life energy back.
Yeah, totally. And gratitude's funny because I know that people have said like it's not enough just to write I'm grateful for, my hair, or I'm grateful for my clothes. You've actually got to feel that state of gratitude. And I found that really, really, really hard, like to actually just feel that state. And I remember doing a process with Demartini. It's like you've got to keep going until you've got tears of gratitude. And I could see it in other people, but I never got to that point like where I could actually feel that in myself. And so I just want to take a moment to say to people, like, if you're not at that stage where you're not actually feeling that like state of full tears of gratitude, like that's okay. Like that's okay. And a lot of time it can be because we've got other stuff, low dense stuff that's like in the way or actually blocking us from feeling that. And it could literally go back to what we spoke about before, that like if you're not allowing yourself or you're blocking yourself from feeling the negative emotions, you're also going to block yourself from feeling the positive emotions. And you can't feel one, not the other. So yeah, like that is that's something really, really important.
I used to do the same. I used to just write this gratitude list and then wonder why, I wasn't getting these miracle effects that everyone was talking about. And then it was about, and I didn't even, because I've done Demartini work, but I didn't realize it's so powerful what he says, is that I started writing because, I'm grateful for because, and I would write down and actually go into the feeling of why. Like for my son, like I can say, oh, I'm grateful for my son, but I have to actually, and use breath work too. Talking about breath work, I had to breathe in my gratitude and breathe in my son and sit there rather than rush, because it was in the masculine energy of writing everything down and ticking those boxes, oh, I've done my 10 grateful things today. Well, I'm better off just doing one thing that I'm grateful for that really feel it in my heart than have 100 things written down that I'm grateful for too. And I suspect you say that's true too.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And yeah, like it just start with one thing. Like with anything, like, some people, they feel like they've got this monumental thing. They've got all this weight on their shoulders. Like to start with one thing. And like sometimes even a bed, I'm just lying in bed and I've got my eyes closed and I just feel the mattress and I just go, thank you for this mattress that I'm lying on. Thank you for this pillow that my head gets to sit on. And, because when we're going to sleep, we are typically more in our feminine energy. It's soft, we're winding down. So for me, I find that really powerful. But like start with that. If you feel like it's too much to go into like, I'm grateful for the car that I drove in or that person, like if it's too much to go into the person, then just start with like, I'm literally grateful for this pillow that I'm lying on, that I've got my head on. Like just that was how simple that is.
Or taking a bite of something. Do you get what I mean? When you take a bite of something, you just feel that gratitude for how you feel. Like you just take that bite. That was something I learned, is that I bite into my food and go, and then when it tasted so good, just say thank you for that, like because you are feeling it. You absolutely, and I love that on a match. I'm going to do that tonight. I can't wait. And I just can't wait because how good it is to sleep on a mattress. I don't have to sleep on the floor.
God.
Like, I remember I used to go to friends' sleepovers when I was younger, and we sleep on the floor with a sleeping bag. No, 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 mattress all the way, you know, pillow too.
Mattress all the way.
Oh, like it is, yeah. Like, God, we are blessed. Like I know, but I have to say, I never used to be in this state. I used to not be in this point of where I am today, and it was just about to that self-awareness you're talking about, and being kind in the journey, and realizing where I am, where I'm at, and it's okay for today. Like that real
Yeah,
self-kindness.
100%, 100%. And like, I was not at this place. Like, even 2 years ago, I was still like, even 12 months ago, I remember Steve and I were in Noosa, and we had this like altercation, and it was like, it was so easy. I was like, you did this and you said that and you said that, and I was so focused on that. And then it was, and like, it was like kind of this uncomfortable like energy between us for like 2 to 3 days, and it was like we were in beautiful Noosa, like what the hell. And then it was, okay, going in, like, how have I contributed to this situation? And it's literally just one thing. And like, you don't even have to say that to the other person. It's literally just about within yourself. Okay, like, how did I do this situation? How could I have been better in this situation? What can I learn from this? And it may only be one thing, but that is enough to actually fully shift the energy. So yeah, I was I'm just going to turn that phone off. That's calling. Yeah, so it's not about feeling like you're at this place and like the end journey of where you want to get at to is like so far away, because I was like, this has been a like 10-15 year journey. And when I look back at Facebook memories, instead, I was like so angry, and I laugh about it now, but I was totally oblivious. I had no idea, and I wasn't doing gratitude then. I wasn't saying thank you to my mattress or my pillow. I was looking everything outside of yourself. So I think it's really important for everyone to remind themselves that, like, it's so easy to get caught up in where I'm not and other people are so far advanced. And I have done this, but everyone, everyone started from a newborn baby, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so, and yeah, the sooner you get it, it feels like some people can catch it quicker and they can move out of it faster, and so can I. But just, not everyone started at that point. And I was in that place of anger and stuckness for like over a decade, and I just could not shift myself out of it.
Bring that up because a lot of people in life compare themselves to others, and we think that they're an overnight success, but you don't realize that they've been doing the work, like the work that was required, the navigation. It doesn't matter if it's about self-development, or it's if they're I will talk about the actor, like an actor, a movie star, or a basketball player. Like we all think that they've just come, but the reality is behind the scenes, they're always working and doing exactly what you just said, reflecting. And the biggest thing I do it every day, I reflect on the end of the day. Okay, what have I done? What worked? What didn't? What can I do better next time? Like, what can I do better next time, really tomorrow? But just being in that
Yeah.
place of reflecting and not comparing. Like, I really wish that people would stop doing that, comparing themselves to other people, because you are unique, absolutely unique to
Yeah.
well. That's why you have your own individual fingerprints. You seriously should not be comparing yourself to other people and their success. And what I mean by success, you could be comparing them to their family life. That some people like have kids, I don't have kids, or their career success, their physical success, their emotional success. Like we're always comparing when, like I said, you're a unique individual and you're exactly where you are. And if you're growing and striving and working it on every day, you're going to get to where you need to be. And it's going to be in a better place than where that other person is, because it suits you, not just you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And self-comparison and self-judgment has been something that I've really, really struggled with for a long time. And so, yeah, everyone goes through it. They totally do. And that's where it's okay. Like, what part am I judging myself right now? Okay, well, why am I comparing myself? I'm comparing myself to that because and mostly comparison actually comes from judgment. Like if you're comparing yourself, it's because you're judging something in the other person and feeling like you don't have it within yourself. And that's, yeah. And again, that's something that I really just came to like only recently. It was like when I can like, oh, why are they getting it like so easy? And it's like, okay, I'm feeling it because this is something that's happened way back in school where I did the best I could, but I was still the lowest person in the grade, for example. And then you start judging, or it could be, I know at school there was, it's pretty funny, but I was in science class and we were in the front row with my best friend next to me, and I had did the work and I got an A for my project, and my best friend hadn't done the work. So I said, here, use mine. She literally copied mine and she got an A plus, and it was exactly the same. And I got an A.
What?
And the science teacher was standing right in front of us, and I made some comment, and the girl was like, the teacher's right in front of you. And I was like, I don't care. Like, this is my work. And she literally gave you a better mark. And so, like if it's like that type of stuff, and that's going to actually stay in your field if you don't actually go in and do the work. And I know that sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, that it feels like you've got all this work to do, but it's like just one step at a time. And it's like the sooner you can go into, okay, where does this actually come from, and go back into, for me, it's like closing my eyes, feeling into that event, allowing what needs to come up. And then, like, if it is frustration or it's annoyance or it's anger, like, breathe into that. Okay, I'm feeling annoyance and I'm feeling it in my tummy. And something that I also want to give people is that I used to say, oh, I am frustrated. It's like I was owning the frustration of that's who I was. But the simple shift from I am to I'm feeling frustration in my body, you're actually detaching yourself from the emotion. And that's going to allow you to move through it and release it much quicker. And it means that you won't go into that spiral of like, oh, I am frustration, and now I'm like down the bottom of the spiral, and now I'm judging myself and I'm getting into this drama. So just that shift from detaching yourself from emotions, that you are not frustration, but you are feeling frustration in your body. So it's like, I am feeling anger in my body right now, but I'm not the emotion of anger. Does that make sense?
And I do it all the time. I'm so glad we're having a course of how I communicate, but I do. I say it, and I know that I am is like the most powerful statement you can say. And what even blows my mind away, that's why iPhone put I in front of the phone, because you identify it as you, because I is the most powerful word in the English vocabulary because it's you. And then you're putting I am feeling this way and saying it. Like, no wonder we can't get it out of our system, because we're identifying that that's our personality trait.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
I feel light bulb.
And it's the same with disease. Like, people own it, their disease. It's like it's actually them, like it's fully part of them. And then people get attached to their disease. And like disease, obviously there's various different factors that contribute to it. So I definitely want people to say, be really open to the fact that yes, your emotions are definitely contributing to the disease and the manifestation or the acceleration of that. But you are not your disease. Like, okay, right now I'm feeling a headache in my body, but you are not the headache. Or, I'm feeling, I have people say this, like, oh, I'm OCD. I have a friend and she's OCD, and she's fully owned it to the point where that is her like identity. And so, like, subconsciously, and this may be a little bit deep for some people, but subconsciously, they're going to sabotage all their healing around OCD because they've attached their identity to the OCD. And if they get rid of the OCD, then who the hell are they? So that identity attachment is, yeah, it can be really, really powerful. And so that's where it comes back to self-awareness again. It comes back to the language as well. But yeah, like so many people are attached to their disease and they are literally sabotaging their healing. Like I'll give you an example. So when I was before I was okay with like just eating, if I wanted to eat a burger, just eat a burger. Whereas previously I'd deny myself of that. I denied myself the pleasure of that because I have this a health identity that I needed to live up to, right? And it was like suffocating me because I was denying myself the pleasure of what I wanted because I feel like I had this identity to actually live up to. I remember though when I was obsessed with like going to the gym and doing all diets and stuff like that, and I'd go, okay, I'm gonna go do a diet today. Literally, the exact moment that I declared that, I'd literally binge eat a packet of like potato chips and ice creams, right? And it was literally because I was like, if I do this diet thing, then like who the hell am I actually going to be after that? And that means I've got to heal myself of, you know, whatever it may be, like my digestive stuff. And so, do you know what I mean? Like, I was attached to the identity of ovarian cyst. I was attached to the identity of this bloating and digestive because that's all people had known of me. And if I didn't have that, then who the hell was Jazmine going to be? Because, like I said at the start, we're always getting our needs and our values met, whether they're good or bad.
Glad you share that about the food because that's something I have struggled with for such a long time. And you give me epiphany. And I used to go to a 12-step room and I used to go, but why am I meant to say I'm an addict? Like, I'm this. So it would be like, if you're an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic. Or if I'm an overeater, I am an overeater. And then I see people, what you're saying is that they would make their whole, and I think I used to say to my husband, they're brainwashing you because they would make you engross yourself into this program that you couldn't have recovery outside it unless you were in the program. And for me, I really find that if you're looking for recovery in anything, you should be able to do the work. And I suspect this is what people do with you, that they can do the work and you put, and this is what teaching does too, they put scaffolding around them. So you build them up and then you slowly take that scaffolding away so that they can function on their own.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I do is literally about bringing people back into their natural state. And when I say natural state, it's like I spoke about before that you are the soul, and in that soul, like you are whole and complete, and you are abundant, and that's where your health is actually thriving, and that's where you have the relationships of your dream, and you have that freedom. Like, so it's literally about like I'm in my work, like I'm not fixing anything. I am not healing anything. And I say the word that I'm a healer because people identify with that word healing, but I am not healing anything. I'm not fixing anything. I'm literally just taking away the things that are preventing you from fully living in your natural state of abundance. That's it. That's all I do.
So simple. Do you know, like you're giving them the tools that they can be successful from now on? Like, because those tools are always in you. Your soul is always with you to the day that you die and it manifests into something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's even like when I say I'm freeing people from physical, emotional pain, like I'm not doing that. Like, you know, you've got that, but that is like it's just a piece of baggage. It's just the skin of an onion, right? And I'm literally just taking that away from you so you can live into your natural state. And I just want to remind people that like everything you're going through is literally just a message. Like the pain that you may be experiencing is just a message. Whether it be emotional pain, whether it be physical pain, they are all just messages and they're all just feedback. And sometimes they show up in really inconvenient ways. Sometimes they show up in really uncomfortable ways. Sometimes they don't make any sense, like no logical sense whatsoever. But when you can actually just, tune into that, and again, it comes back to self-awareness, like, okay, that happened. So what does that actually mean? And just be really unattached. And I know that's really easy for me to say because I was attached to like everything, but it's just a conscious decision to be like, okay, I'm choosing to be unattached to this outcome, or I'm choosing to be unattached to what is showing up for me. But what are you here? What can I learn from it, or what am I here to teach you? And that's a process. Like, it's not something that just happens overnight. Like, I'm always, I really believe that perfect doesn't exist, and that, you know, we are all literally just growing and learning together. That's really what it comes down to.
Should end us on this call because I know you're a busy lady, and I really do appreciate the time that you've taken to speak to us today. I really do, and
No problem.
I wanted you to remind everyone, if they want to get in contact with you, how do they find you?
So if they want to email me, they can email me at hello@jazminelaw.com.au, or literally Facebook or Instagram under my name, so Jazmine Law. They will be the two easiest ways to find me.
Post so that they can all get a hold of you and follow you on your page. And she does, believe me, writes beautiful posts. And I want you to go look at one, particularly one about your partner. I love that one about your ego said no, but was it your heart said yes? Yes? Yeah. And that's really, like, even just in partner, it's like anything in life. You always, your heart is always telling you something, and your ego is always telling you no. And your story with your partner and how you found each other is a beautiful reflection of how we all need to listen to our hearts.
Yeah, 100%. And there's some really easy ways to do that. I can do that in another post. So yeah, but just like, thank you so much. Like, thank you for the opportunity to be seen and heard by your audience and everyone else who watches the replay. So yeah, it's pretty special.
You're right. Yeah, and let us know. It is very special. So let us know. Call out if you're watching. Tell us it's a replay. And we do appreciate your time. And thank you for making this so much fun, Jazmine. I love it. And it's so good to see you flourishing. And like I said, everyone, she is a different woman, completely different woman. I met her 10 years ago, and completely, like, your whole space, everything, your energy, everything. Completely different woman. So you know your stuff, yeah? And if you want to do that, you're finding things, reach out, because you should be proud of your stuff. You've done an amazing job. You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jazmine. Bye.
See ya. Bye.